what you needed. Teach your hearts heavy, let's free it. Black to school, we gon' speak it, we gon' bless. Welcome to the show. This ain't on the test. This ain't on the test. This ain't on the test.
We can't keep starting off every episode cracking up and people don't know what we laughing at.
That's all right though. We're happy. We're not bothering nobody with our joy.
Joy be so bothersome to people.
It really
You know
annoys
what?
those that
Black joy is real bothersome to people.
they really want you to stop it. Stop it, I say. You should be
Love
miserable
it.
because you're black. I'm like, what?
Cool it.
What?
This is school. Having all that fun.
I'm happy with my life.
Anywho, yo and hello and welcome back.
Hey y'all, hey.
It's your favorite teacher besties from your favorite teacher podcast. Welcome back to This Ain't on the Test with their host Branson and Beth. This ain't on the test. Hey, but it's what you really
Come
need.
on, that theme song, it hits, it bangs, and it
I
slaps. It's very
enjoy it so
violent.
thoroughly. And y'all haven't even heard the full one. Like I gotta drop the full 90-second
Because
situation.
that thing is hitting.
Shout out to Jen who made it for us.
Shout out, shout out.
Anyhow, let's check
Yes.
in. How are you, mother?
I'm great. I am good. Life is good. I'm vibing. I haven't been celebrating my divine nineness, and everything has
Yes.
since calmed down because January is gone. But everybody was just celebratory, just all of the time. So
Mm.
just all of the time, because
Oh.
Zeta. So I was just celebratory, and it was great. So now,
Mhm.
I'm calm.
Okay. Giving it cute.
Yeah.
Giving it cute.
How about you?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. I'm excited. Got fun things coming up for February. Just came back from a little staycation. My wife and I have we found this 777 dating rule. So we've always done our weekly date nights, as you know. They're on
I
Wednesdays.
do.
Everybody knows
Mhm.
that. I don't talk to nobody. I don't go nowhere. I don't talk to them. Stay nice Wednesday. So it's like every 7 days you're supposed to have a date. Every 7 weeks you're supposed to do an overnight trip,
Mhm.
just somewhere. And every 7 months you're supposed to plan like a long like vacation
Love
type trip.
that. Love it.
Yes, so it's the 777 rule. So it has been 7 weeks, and it's time for an overnight trip. I think it's
Hmm.
actually been 7 weeks since we got married because our staycation for the wedding was it was in
Hmm.
line with with
Nice.
our
Nice.
777.
Look at you. Every time you say 777, I want to say 9311. It's a song from back when
I
I was a
wanna
kid.
spend the night
Night
with you
with
if
you, if
that's
that's
all
all
right.
right.
It's a song. Who did you think you were talking to?
And that's my fault, but there are people listening who may not know and might be thinking I'm doing angel numbers or something.
7, 11. Better
The
know your
time.
ancestors. Yeah, see, this is what we're here to talk about. You should know that because that's your history.
If you don't know the time, you missing out on something because that's one of the
That
best
was,
groups
honey,
ever.
got to know your
Ever.
history. Speaking
Hmm.
of, shout out to Brian Poole. Hey, because when you were singing Don't Stop the Groove and you
Hmm.
couldn't figure out who it was, he did leave a comment on our Spotify page. It is by The System.
It sure was. Oh, look at shout out to Brian Poole. You've been shouted out. Okay.
I was like, that's gonna stick out to me because I saw that comment. And I was like, oh, Mama gonna trip. She was trying to figure out who that was. I had never
And
heard of it.
what?
It was The System.
And it was the
Um,
system, and now I want to sing the whole song. I can't get out my head now. Okay.
oh, okay. 777. Is this help if I switch it up?
No, too late now. The jukebox has been turned on. It's in
Okay.
there.
Just
Okay.
because we're already on a tangent, have you ever heard this? The movie, is it Earwig? It's a cartoon, it's an animated film about like the song that gets stuck in your head.
Like an earworm.
Yes. But they
Mm-mm.
personified her. She's like a little person. And
She
And
be
she's
getting it,
like
ain't it?
dark, like it's like a dark magic thing, and she has the ability to get like stuck in your head and stuff like that. And it's this, it's a really really cute animation. I think there's two movies in the series. Anyway,
Wild. I know that in what is that movie about the emotions with the cartoons? Come on.
Inside Out.
And Inside Out, that's one of the things they would do. Say, oh, time to
Yes,
give him random music thoughts. And he would just drop his down. I was like, I know they're living in my head, just
yes,
dropping
it was the
random
theme
music.
songs from commercials.
Just for no reason. Just for no reason.
Yes.
So yeah.
Oh
Okay.
man.
Well, that was a good time.
All right. The check-in though. The check-in is good. We've checked in. We're
Everybody's
good.
good.
Everybody's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mental health is on the up and up. So yeah. Then let's go ahead and hit them with the ground rules, and so we can tell them what this episode is about.
Okay, okay, because in this space, we rep the culture. And what, you may ask, is the culture? Let me tell you, the
Baby.
culture is who we are, why we are, where we are, when we are, what we do, and how we do it with the rhythm and the blues that we do it in.
Ow.
Culture is melanated and it's magical, and that thing needs to be respected. We don't let anyone disrespect it. We don't let anybody ignore it. We don't let anyone talk to it any kind of way. So we're going to respect the culture and we're going to carry it with the respect that it deserves. We're going to educate the culture. We're going to make sure that those coming behind us have all the support and guidance and knowledge that they need to be everything they plan to be in this life. And then we are going to protect that culture. We're going to bubble wrap it and protect it from all hurt, harm, and danger. And let me tell you, in 2026, there's some hurt, there's some harm, and there's some danger. So we need to protect it. Because in this space, we rep the culture.
Rep the culture, baby.
Rep the culture, baby.
R.E.P. That never gets old. We also would not be a teacher podcast. We would not be your teacher besties if there was not a listening objective for the episode. So, by the end of today's episode, listeners will be able to identify specific ways that the education system has impacted the authenticity of Black history.
What you say to me? Welcome to Black
Okay?
History Month.
We're looking at how the education system itself has impacted the authenticity with which Black history is shared and retold.
My
Okay?
God, today. Okay. All right.
I know words.
You said words. You've been
Because I
educated.
know.
You got degrees.
I do.
Hey now. Hey
Couple
now.
of few.
So now, what you mean by that?
Okay, so our history as Black Americans, right? As members of the diaspora, okay, descendants of the original people.
Yeah.
In America, especially, we are not always the keepers and tellers and mass producers of our history. And the people who do write our history down and share our history with others and keep those records of our history often alter the story to make themselves the protagonist in every situation. And I'm just going to give it to you straight. We're talking about the whites. Okay. We're talking about the people that are in the major political power, right? The people who write the history books, teach the history books, make the laws, reinforce the laws, uphold the laws, stretch and alter the laws. They have been given, well, I don't know if they've been given, they have taken the role of becoming our historians. And the way in which they tell our story is how our future and it gets shaped.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk today about things that we know as, little tiny history buffs, but things that we have learned on our educational journey, and how the educational system has impacted the way we see ourselves, the way our stories have been told, and the way we've been set up in this country. Some may say set up for success, some may say set up for failure, but it's a setup
It's a
either way.
setup.
It's a
Okay.
setup. And we're going to talk
It's a
about how
setup.
we were set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
history is always told from the perspective of the author. Whoever's
Yes.
telling the story tells it from their point of view. And
Mhm.
anybody that sees a car accident, we could be standing two different places and see the exact same accident and see it two different ways. And sometimes neither one is lying. It's just I only have my perspective. And so I automatically assume yours is wrong because I know what I saw. I know what I was told. I know
Hmm.
it affected me. So history is told, and it's told only from one perspective. You only get that one viewpoint, and you tend to see that we are thought of as less than, incapable, needing assistance, not being able to take care of ourselves, things of that nature, because we're not telling our own stories. So that is a thing. That is a thing.
So let's start at the beginning. Um, a lot of people in academia value the Greek and Roman philosophers and education systems as like the foundation, right?
Mhm.
A lot of the words and the measurements and all those things that we use now today are still rooted in Latin, which is why in 2026 we're still teaching Latin root words and Latin prefixes and things like
Mhm.
that because it helps you understand the world in which we live. What a lot of people don't know, though, is that a lot of those people came to Africa to learn from those academic leaders during their university and educational
That
programming.
part.
So at no point in the beginning of history were people confused on where they could go to get high quality information, to find innovation, to ask and answer questions. We were seen as a wealth of resources in Africa. Um, and I want to say specifically at this point, Northern Africa. There was architecture like in ancient Egypt that people could not understand. To this day, they don't really understand how we were
Right.
able to build it. It just doesn't, for their realm of understanding and mine, my current realm of understanding. I don't know how we did it. Black people is magic, but
That part.
we
That part.
clearly have been technologically advanced, mathematically advanced, because all of
Mm-hmm.
that type of architecture is rooted in engineering, which is rooted in algebra and math and equations and things like that, and geometry. All the things that a lot of Black people like to walk around and say, I ain't good at math. I'm not a math person, baby. You are math. That's
Exactly. You say you're not
you.
good at math, then you make this tessellating pattern with hair and
I'm
make these
like,
braids and stuff like that. And you say, but you don't realize the math. No
you
one's giving you
are math.
credit for the math that you're
Yes.
already intrinsically, genetically predisposed to doing.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Um, exactly. So that's kind of where we wanted to start with how the education system, even then, once they started spreading their information, their history, started colonizing and putting their place, their culture, stamping it across different countries, kind of overriding the culture that already existed. Because a lot of places, like America, people act like it didn't start until the colonizers showed up,
Oh my God.
because that's where the history books start.
Mm.
But
As if he
like,
wasn't, as if they wasn't already here.
stuff was already popping off. Like there was already people was already over here. All of that history gets skipped oftentimes, and we start from where they started. And that is not where our history started.
Exactly, exactly. We have a rich, dynamic history of highs and lows, of goods and bads, of people. But all you ever
Mhm.
seem to hear about are the lows and the bads. But we
Yes.
have highs, we have goods, we have greats, we have magic, and we have to claim that magic. And I think we all, both of us, believe that if students understood truly where they came from, they would have be more empowered to do more
Hmm.
because they know they're not, it's not an uphill battle. You're not fighting against everything. You are already great. People before you that look just like you have been magical. You're not the only one that's trying to do something. You are great. And if they just got to see that, because students think they came from slaves, students think they come from poverty, student thinks that they no one ever did it that looked like them, so why would they be able to do it when that is so far from
From
the
the truth.
truth? So far. So where you want to start, Brandon?
Oh, we started, girl. That's where we. I just gave you all this ancient history. Jeez.
All
Um,
right.
the first impact I would say that education system had on the authenticity of our history is starting our history with the slaves brought to Jamestown in the colonial era, and our
Exactly.
history did not start there. So that I would say that's the first major impact, is erasing
Absolutely.
all of the things that happened before then. And because we are members of the diaspora, it's not just the things that happened in the areas where slaves were taken from. It's the things that happened all over the world that nobody in America gets to start with in the history books. We only start with the beginning of founding, air quotes, this country.
Right, right. And it's important to know that slaves weren't brought anywhere. People weren't enslaved and people were brought here. So they were people. They were moms and dads. They were kings and queens. They were doctors and they were leaders and they were good people. And some of them were bad people, but they were people that they decided they would just take and enslave them and bring them here and then steal their knowledge and put their own names on it. So it's like, oh, you created how to cultivate this. Well, we're just going to take that and put our name on it. Oh, you created how to fix this boat. Well, we're going to just put our name on. You figured out how to make a phone work. Well, we're just going to put our name. You figured out how the filament in the light bulb should work. We're just going to put our name. Because when you don't have the power to say you can't take my things, people just take it and you think that we didn't make nothing. Baby, we'd be in the dark, naked, walking and eating raw food if it wasn't for the things that we had created. And it's not to say that other ethnicities have not created amazing things, but with that same grace that we give to others, no one gives it back to us. We have to demand that you go research it. We got to prove it 12 different ways. And that's just so unfair that we always got to prove that we are deserving of the respect that we should earn as being human beings on the planet and as
Yeah.
being amazing in the space. Rep the culture.
Yes. So another impact that I would say the educational system had on the authenticity of Black history is
Mm-hmm.
removing our achievements. We've seen literally with the current president, he genuinely went online and erased so many of our achievements and called it what you call it
DEI.
DEI. I'm
Yeah.
like, so you just gonna take all the stuff off the website, like all the things that we did, all the accomplishments, all the you just go like that was a real thing that happened in our current day and age. Like that is it's probably the boldest um most audacious erasure of Black history that I've seen, but it's not the first. The system is built that way. So they've been doing it forever, but he was the first person who was like, and I'm going to do it in daylight, out loud, where everybody could
Watch
see
me do it.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Watch. Don't believe me, Joe. Sorry. Um, that's uh, getting tongue
Yeah,
tied because it's so
exactly.
frustrating.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
Erasing our achievements like lessens our impact, and because this country values so much like what you bring to the table, because not everybody values that. Not everybody is as materialistic as like you are. Your worth is equal to what you can give to
yes.
others, like what you can bring to others. So because they kept diminishing the things that we had achieved, it made our worth also diminish, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot easier to step on and disrespect and disgrace a group of people who already have a lower worth than you.
Right. And when the people that are being disgraced, disrespected, disregarded, um, don't have a full grasp of their own history, they believe that they are becoming worthless and they react accordingly. So you kind of get what you think, what you're looking for. And that's the thing we have to stop. Back, way back in the day, when we were segregated, we took the time to make sure that our children knew our history because we were teaching our own kids. And so we made sure they knew where they came from. They knew their own familial history.
Yeah.
You knew who great grandma, great great grandma, great grandma was. You knew the land, you kept up the traditions, you knew things like that. And then you learned about the people around you. So they didn't necessarily need a history book because they had living oral histories. They had people in the community,
Griots.
griots. They had living oral history there and they stayed in the community. So you always knew because there was somebody that could always be there to remind you. But then we got integrated and everybody went like that, literally like that.
Hmm.
And suddenly I'm in a place where I don't know what happened past yesterday because I just got here today. I don't know. So I believe what you tell me. So if you say we never did nothing, soon it just starts to dissipate because it's not in a history book, it's not in a standard. I
Hmm.
know for a fact in the state of Georgia, the history book says that slaves were migrant workers. So much of the history is just like that, that really didn't. You say it happened, but it did not.
And that's
So,
one.
hmm? Makes you
That
want to
that makes
fight.
me want to fight.
And it should,
Um,
and it should. And then we only get, they've taken Black History Month, and they're like, you really don't have to teach it if you don't want to. And so many things have just in the 26 years that I've been doing this, I just watched it be a huge. At least that we had them 28 days. At least that was a big deal. And now we didn't even celebrate it my last year at my high school. We didn't do anything. There was nothing. There was no door decorating contest. There was no Black History Fact of the Day. There was no. It was just like, okay, cool. If you want to do it, you can, but we're not. As a school, we're not going to embrace it because the president said we're not. So we're not. Yeah. So it's a big deal that is slowly dissipating, and if we don't pay attention, if we don't stop it, our history is going to be gone, and we're only going to have what they say we did. And again, history is only told from the point of the author.
mm-hmm.
And if we're not the authors of who's telling the history, we're going to be made the villains in everybody's story.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah.
Like, bro, like, because
Take a
it's
minute, take
so
a deep breath. I'm going to drink this
it's
orange
so
apple pineapple juice.
heavy. It's so heavy. Like the people are so the white people in power throughout the years, because it's not all people. It's the groups of people, right?
Mhm.
So white people in power over all these years have been in such fear um of what we are capable of, and they've gone through such dire strengths, like such extreme lengths to try to keep us from being able to reach our fullest potential.
Right.
Like, why you gotta hide books from people who can't read?
Hmm.
You must know that we're capable of
Right,
reading.
right, right. Why would you decide that there's a law that says we're not allowed to read because you're so afraid that if we get hold of just a little bit more knowledge, because we're already amazing, if we just get a whole little bit more knowledge, we're coming for that behind and you're afraid of it.
Like, why you gotta separate people's families?
All
Why
of
you
that.
gotta why you gotta dehumanize people?
Mm-hmm.
Why you gotta do why are we not worth rights, but we are qualified and capable to raise your children, to
Say
feed
it
them and
again.
nourish them from our own
Mm-hmm.
body?
Mm-hmm.
I am responsible for your most important asset, but I'm stupid.
I can't be both
I like that can't both of those things can't be true.
unless you stupid. So
And
what are we doing? So what
both
are
of
we
those
doing?
things can't be true, bro.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just it just can't be.
I know in our last episode you talked a minute about taking your students, predominantly black, all black, out and not know the kids starting to shrink when they
Yeah.
were out because they were around so many white people and they didn't really know how to own their own position. They didn't know if they
Yeah.
were worthy of even standing up there and taking up the space. And that that comes from a lack of information. That comes from thinking that the movement stopped when Martin Luther King was assassinated because he's the only one in the history book that the stuff is all named after because there's always an MLK Street in every city and there's
Mhm.
always an MLK Arena somewhere. So he's the only one that we know about. But there are so many people today, right now, in this moment, working to better our people and all people because unlike other people, when we fight for our rights, we share those new freedoms with anybody who could benefit from them. Like everybody could get this good stuff, y'all. Everybody can get this knowledge. Everybody should be able to go to college. Everybody should be able to get a job. Everybody should be able to marry who they want to marry. We don't say it's just about us.
Yes.
We don't ever say it's just about us. We say we're being disrespected and everybody deserves respect. That seems to be the big difference. But if you're not going to put that in the history books and teach the children, they will continue to either shrink or segregate themselves and never reach the full potential of what's around them to reach because they think
Mhm.
they're not worthy or they're not supposed to have it.
It's that. It's the thing that it's not for them. When I was a kid, and now we can kind of go through, our personal educational impacts, right? But really quickly, when I was a kid, a lot of the bullying that I experienced from Black kids was for me doing white stuff, like listening to white music or watching white shows or talking like a white person, because those types of things were not deemed for us. And I was like, how come I can't like what I like? Like, I like a little bit of everything. I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I like my Lizzie McGuire. I like my Raven Simone. Yeah, how come I can't have them both? And it wasn't until Black culture kind of got mainstreamed
Mm-hmm.
that that it became more acceptable to like more different types of stuff, if that makes
Yeah, it
sense.
does make sense. Because I remember dealing with that with you. I
Yeah.
remember that you used to say that people used to tell you, why you don't talk white? I said, well, how she gonna speak a color? I said, I don't know. I don't understand. It's stupid, and I don't like that. And
Mhm.
but I tried to get you through that as best as I could because you had the right to be who you were and exactly your wonderful, different, eclectic self. And you and your sibling are 1,000% different.
Nobody
And
ever accused them of talking white.
all
Weird.
right. Weird how that happened. I mean,
Odd. Even though I was raised in the hood and they were raised in the suburbs, but whatever.
hey, I don't know how it all worked out, but it did. So,
It was really weird to me that, like, talking like the people I heard, because I was a theater kid, I was a musicals kid, I liked Disney, I watched a lot of stuff and I listened to a lot of different types of music, and I kind of like, you pick up the stuff that you put in
hmm,
you. The stuff you put in you comes out.
yeah, it does.
And when it came out, not everybody liked it.
And that's okay because you found the people who did like it. And that's what we need to also teach our kids is that if you're your authentic self, then you will attract people who are attracted to your authentic self. So you don't have to sit around masking all day long, being
Yeah,
different, because that's exhausting to
it
try to be
is.
so many different people. So that's a freebie for anybody out there. If you really are tired of trying to be everybody else, stop. Be you, and you will find the people that are intrinsically and authentically attracted to you. And then you ain't got
Mm-hmm.
to pretend to be nobody else. And that's cool. And there may be less people, but them be the only people that you need.
Honey, and you don't need a lot of them.
I say it might be
Um,
a whole lot less, but it'll be the only people that you need.
you only need a few.
But back to
Um,
this, the difference between your schooling and my schooling is that you said you were surrounded by white people for most of your kindergarten through 12th grade schooling
yeah,
because of the track that you were on in the city that we lived in. That was
yeah,
kind of that's what happened when you were in those special classes, is that you
yes.
were one of the few. I
One of the proud.
not one of the Marines though, but
Ah, I
almost,
thought you were gonna let me have it. All right.
almost. Mine was a little bit different, but it was kind of back and forth, back and forth. From
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten to fifth grade, everybody was black. All the students, everybody, all the students. I don't think I had a black teacher from kindergarten to high school.
What?
Now that I think about it, I don't believe I had a black teacher until I got to high school. One of my white teachers was married to the other black teacher that she wasn't my teacher. And I remember we asked him, this was when I was in fourth grade, Mr. Percy. Mr. Percy, if you are watching, hey, Mr. Percy, Bernard
Hey,
Percy.
Brian.
I remember asking him clearly in fourth grade, were they gonna have a striped baby? Because I had never met a white man married to a black woman, and I thought, and she was pregnant. I said, the baby gonna be striped. So as I was
You thought
four,
she
I
was
was in
gonna give
fourth
birth
grade.
to a zebra?
I thought she was gonna be black and white. And how else was she gonna be black and white? Let's me see in the black and the white. You gotta think, go back to the 70s. It's not like I had the internet. I couldn't ask Chat GPT.
Well,
I was in my
obviously.
neighborhood, everybody was black. And then
That's
he
so
found the
cool.
one black teacher and he married her. And I was like, well, now this is interesting because she's black. Can they be married? And you see, you don't think about those things, but it was the 70s and we were quite
Okay.
confused by it. But I grew up knowing so much Black history because that's what they taught. Even those lovely little white teachers, that was their job, and they took it very seriously. I can't even complain about any of my teachers
Hmm.
that I can remember. They took it very serious because y'all came into the hood to teach the Black children and the low income neighborhood, and y'all took it to your heart to save us, and I love that. And they took the time to teach us some serious history. And also, it was New York City, it was Brooklyn. So there was so much Black history museums. We had a holiday called Black Solidarity Day, and that was pre MLK Day, because I remember when MLK became a holiday. So before that, we had Black Solidarity Day when all the schools were closed and all the museums were open. And you had to go to the museum and do a project and bring it back to school. And there were parades
Oh,
and things like
wow.
that. So it was like, so Blackness was embraced, our history was embraced. So when I became a teacher, I said, so they didn't learn this in third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade? No, they don't. They because I did. So I just assumed that everybody everywhere. I forget that I left New York City and went down
To
to
teach in
Georgia,
Georgia. I was about
and
to
that
say.
whole different world. And so I was used to being one of all the Black children from the neighborhood. And then, as I was telling my daughter, I was intelligent for a little while, and I got a full scholarship to a school called the Packer Collegiate Institute, and that's in Brooklyn, New York. And it was at that time the most expensive private school in the city. And remember I said I was low income from the hood. Okay, so I rode the subway with a little brown paper bag for lunch, going to school, living my best life. And my classmates were coming to school in limousines. They were coming with drivers. They were doing things like that because I was school. One of the congressman's daughters was in my class. Jim Henson's children were there. Um, what was that baby's name from Robert, Roger, whatever his name is, the youngest
Michael.
son, Michael. Thank you, Michael from Good Times. He was like 2 or 3 grades ahead of me in the school. So the school was full of people that had a lot of money, and you know who didn't? So I was there, and it was a great experience. But I went from kindergarten to 12th grade to school, and in the middle school there was 2 Black students, me and Daisha.
Wow.
And so that was really wild. That was so wild to be around people that didn't look like me. I'd never had that experience before, ever, never. To get invited to a party and then my friends send the limousine to pick me up. I live across the street from the projects in Brooklyn in the limo, and all I do is hang out the top of the sunroof in the car as it picks me up. So I'm going to the party because I don't know how to act because I've never been in a limousine and I'm in 6th grade.
That is how
And
you act.
that's how I still act now to this day. But back then it probably wasn't cool. So, you know, but to realize in that instance at Packer, they didn't teach me anything about Black history, but I learned a lot about other cultures. I learned French history. I learned European history, but nobody was at the time to give me African history or Black history because it wasn't representative of the cultures in the room. So that was so odd. That was so odd to be the
Wow.
odd man out. I only stayed 2 years. I kept my scholarship. My mother pulled me out. And she pulled me out because she felt like I couldn't participate fully. And by that
Oh,
we mean because my scholarship just covered academics, but things like I took French. My French class went to France for their school trip. I
of
couldn't
course.
go. Yeah, they went kayaking in the Adirondacks. I remember that for one of the spring break trips. I couldn't go. So I was getting left out of a lot of the things that everybody was doing because they was just
They were
doing them.
rich.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and so she pulled me out in the end of 7th grade, and I went to 8th grade at a junior high school, and so that was different. But for those 2 years, I got to. That was my first time realizing that everybody's not Black,
Mm.
and when I'm around people that are not Black, I shrink. I was watching the way I was speaking. I tried to make sure I articulated well. I s- gravitated from anybody that knows me knows I love rap music more than anything in this world. But I was a Sean Cassidy fan for 2 years,
Who is
and I
Sean
went to
Cassidy?
Sean Cassidy. His brother was on the Partridge Family, and he used to sing. He was a Hardy Boy in the Hardy Boys Mysteries. Don't worry about it. Cute
A
little
lot
brown
of things
dude.
I don't know.
And
Okay.
see, all I went from white to white to white, but it's cool because that's all good stuff. I'm not knocking it. Anybody listening, I ain't knocking it. I had a Sean Cassidy poster in my bedroom between Michael Jackson and Prince. So, because Sean was
Ah,
my dude. Sean was
he's
my
adorable.
dude. Sean was my dude. So, I mean, I went to his concert and I was the only little dark spot in the whole arena. And that's cool because
Exactly.
I was enjoying my life. But it expanded me in a ways that I've continued to stay expanded. I'm
Yeah.
grateful for the experience. It made me a better, well rounded human. I'm much more comfortable now with anybody and everybody. And that was the start of it. But I shrunk
Mm.
before I expanded. And some of our students, because they don't have the Black Solidarity Days, the history that was in them, they shrink and stay shrunken like a shrinky dink.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the difference, is we don't want them to shrink. We want them to expand. We want them to become. And so they have to know their history. Because if I didn't have that basis of, wait a minute, I'm fabulous. They told me that in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. I forgot. I remember. If they don't have anything to remember, they'll just believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference. What you
Mm-hmm.
think about that, ma'am?
I think that the education system did that on a countrywide scale
What do you mean?
to so many Black kids, that they, like when I was in school in Georgia while you were teaching, I was being a student. So like you said, I had that flip flop, and I distinctly remember Georgia history was the history that we got.
Mm-hmm.
We all you got
That's
was
all you need to
Georgia
know. Eighth grade,
history.
Georgia history. Mm-hmm.
You only need to know about this state, okay? And we, I'm pretty sure, won the war. The way that they taught it, like,
Absolutely, we did, and they're still slaves. Yes,
and it's like,
exactly.
cause like I'm like I see what happened, but the way it's giving, like what it's giving in this book, is that we were the victors,
And the
okay?
Confederate flag is still flying. Yes.
And the Confederate flag was flying everywhere, to the point that I didn't realize the Confederate flag was like a symbol of racism until much later on in life. Until 11th grade. So shout out to moms making educational choices for their children. Because I support grandma's reasoning for taking you out of that school. It could have done more
Mm-hmm.
damage than good as you got older. High school would have been real sticky
Yeah.
um, after a while. And shout out to you for celebrating me and all of my weirdness, and, helping me get on the path to get to Savannah Arts Academy, because we had young, hippie, cool teachers who were like going against the grain and like doing stuff different, like teaching at art school. So my APUS history teacher was called A Push. My APUS history, Mr. Adcock, if you're out there, dude, the goat. The first book he gave us to start the year was Lies My Teacher Told Me. And I was like, our teacher told lies? Wait. I've never heard of that. Miss Crawford would never. So like that was like my first like exposure to like, oh, these things are not facts just because they're printed.
mm.
I didn't know that. As a person who loved school, enjoyed school, truly, like, I enjoyed going to school. Okay. I was a school girly. So all of those things I took as truth, because it was a safe space for me. It was a place where I was successful and I
Mm-hmm.
had friends and connections, and teachers liked me and kids liked me, and I was in clubs and stuff. So it was a place where I thought like, surely they would never do me harm. And then come to find out, people that I had trusted were teaching me things that were biased or one-sided, and like belittling me in microaggressive ways that I didn't
Mm.
notice. And it took a white man as my teacher to break that wall for me. It made me so upset. It broke a little bit of my trust
Mm.
in school. Um and I think as a little part of me that wanted to go into education for that, because like I wanted to be the person that was breaking the walls for the people, like, hey, just so you know,
That ain't true.
ignore page 37. That's not what happened. Like that, I wanted to be like that little voice that was like,
Mm.
actually, did you know there's like three different ways you could divide that? I don't know if anybody told you. Like, you don't actually have to do it like that. Like there's options. Like education became about options. And it used to be about instilling things in me, as opposed to exposing me to things that I could go and instill myself in.
Come on. I love
Right?
that.
Like I feel like education is supposed to be like where you go and figure out like what you're good at and where you can make your mark. Like, oh, I see myself doing this type of thing. And a lot of the time it felt the opposite, where they were all just trying to tell me what I was supposed to do and say and
Mm-hmm.
think.
That part. And I think that's something that we lose, is that education is not about just shoving information down somebody's throat. It's about giving people information so they can think for themselves,
Yeah.
so they can make decisions based on sound judgment. Yeah.
Not to give, credit back to Latin folks, because now I'm sure it's based on an African root word, but that is something that I studied in my master's program, was like the term of education, like the root word educere, which means to bring forth or to pull out. And so
Mhm.
the fact that like educators had spent all this time trying to shove stuff in, it's antithetical to what education is supposed to do.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the importance of knowing this history, let's round it back to the Black History,
Yes.
for this Black History Month. If we just give people the facts and you trust them to make a decision based on the facts, and it
Yes.
doesn't have to be the decision that you would have
You
come
would
up
make.
with, because we make decisions based on who we are, why we are, what we know. We make decisions based on our perspective, rep the culture. We
Yes.
make decisions based on who we are. If you just give me the facts and trust me to make the decision that's best for where I am, for what I see. And I might change my mind 10 years from now. There are so many things that I've said, well, that was true for Beth of 30 years old, but Beth of
Yes.
60, this is my truth based on that same information. Because I know more, I know better,
I've
I know
seen more.
different,
I've
you know?
experienced more.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
gotta have some faith in the facts and in the students. And you can't just decide now they ain't gonna do it right. Let me just tell you what to think. That's not what education is about. That's indoctrination. It's not
Hey,
education.
come on.
And that's
That's
not what it is.
indoctrination. And that is the biggest impact that the education system has had on the authenticity of Black history. It has indoctrinated people into this belief that we have always been pulling ourselves up from this decimated place where we
Mhm.
began as
Yeah, we're
lowly
always less
slaves.
than. We're always
And
less
it's
than.
not, and we are not starting at a deficit. Black people are, and don't get it twisted, because I'm not trying to have people cancel me and stuff like that. I'm not saying that we're on equal footing when I say that we're not starting at a deficit. Societally, we have been set up as a people to not have access to the same opportunities as white people. And that makes things more difficult for us. Some things it makes nearly impossible. We can't catch up. We can't we have to break the system down and rebuild it for us to be able to get on some relative
For us all
level
to be at the same starting line at the
of
same
equality.
time. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm not saying that that is not true. That is true. But in terms of capability, Black people are not at a deficit. We are not starting in the negatives trying to fix or catch up to some level of capability that white people have. And that is what I think this indoctrinated, whitewashed version of Black history sets us up to be. That's the story they tell about us,
Hmm.
is that they started here and we started here in terms of our ability and
Intelligence and ability.
cognitive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, and that's not what it is. We started there in terms of political and societal power. We started here and there in terms of financial literacy and opportunity, but
Opportunity.
ability,
Yeah.
girl,
The
these hoes
reason,
could
the
never.
reason it was like this and they purposely put is because our ability is so strong that if we all
Yes,
started here together, you'd be eating our dust. So purposely
because we're better than you now, and y'all had 400 years of trying to fuck the game up. Like,
see, you can't rig, you only rig the game when you think you're gonna lose. I have never
loser.
I
Sorry.
have never thought, let me trip her before the game, before the race start, because I think she can't run as fast as me anyway. No, but I say if I'm trying to win and I know she got me by like 7 seconds, I'm gonna go ahead and untie her shoe. That's when I want to do something to sabotage your results so that I make sure that I'm first. See, they wouldn't
Yes.
try to sabotage us if they weren't afraid of the magic that's in us.
Yes.
So that's the thing. And please know,
That's the
we're not
difference.
talking about every white person in the world.
No.
We're not saying anything like that. We are saying historically, we have been sabotaged again and again and again. Every time they do something, they move the starting line and then take away our ability to get there. You got the right to vote, but now you got to count the beans. You got a right to get elected, but then we're going to blow up your house and send the Klan. You got a right to be the president, but then we're not going to hang your picture up in the White House. You have a right, but then we're not going to. You have a right, but then we're not going to. That's what keeps happening. And people keep saying, but it's not that time now. It's not that time now. Baby, it's always that time.
It's always
Until
that time.
you realize that it's happening, it'll continue to be that time. You can't ignore it, and you can't be so hurt by the truth that you decide not to see it. And if we don't teach our children, then we're just going to keep replicating this over and over and over again, and repeating the history that we refuse to acknowledge. So, yeah.
All of that being said, I want us
Mhm.
to think back to our very first episode. And we said the intention behind this podcast was to build a space for Black educators to stay in the work. That we wanted a place where you could vent, you could cry, you could get support, you could get ideas, you could laugh, you could find your tribe that could motivate you and inspire you and refuel you when your tank got empty, because Black students need desperately Black teachers.
They do.
And we need teachers who also honor and rep the Black culture in a way that it deserves, right? And there are people of all different ethnicities who are able to respect, educate, and protect our culture. But there's a special connection that we have with our history and our babies, and we need to be in those spaces.
It's
And
important.
that griot version of like that oral history, the way we can just slide some things in there that aren't on the curriculum, that ain't on the test, these are the reasons why we need to stay in these spaces, to teach our babies, to make sure that they know that they are intelligent, that they are capable, that they are able, that they are brilliant, that they are descendants of greatness, of life changing, world changing, generation changing greatness,
Yes,
icons, legends. They're not just people whose great great grandparents were slaves.
that part.
Like, it's that, and that is why we take times like this to honor Black history, to honor our educators. And we are going to spend some time this month shouting out amazing Black educators on socials. So please make sure you send nominations our way of people who are out there repping the culture and telling that Black history.
Or creating that Black history, or
Hey,
changing that Black history. So come on. Come on.
come
If you know
on.
somebody who's amazing, or doggone it, if you amazing, hit us up. Hit us
Please.
up. This ain't on the
.com.
test.com. Yes. Is it TAOTT, or is it this ain't on the test? Is
This
it the
ain't on the
words or the letters?
test.com.
I'm the old one.
Every now and then I'll be like, how this called This Ain't on the Test. So the website is called This Ain't on the Test.
Just y'all just talk to me for a second. So I know that I be out here cute, I know. But I'm old and I be forgetting stuff. So don't take it to
The
I'm
Facebook is
finished.
This Ain't on the Test. The Instagram is This Ain't on the Test. The TikTok is This Ain't on the Test. The YouTube is This Ain't on the Test. The Spotify is This Ain't on the Test. And the website is This Ain't on the Test.
So is the name of it This Ain't on the Test?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's This Ain't on the Test. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
this episode really just wants you to rep the culture, but you can't rep what you don't know.
So
So I
go
need you to
learn
go.
something.
So go learn something so you can rep the culture, baby.
Learn yourself something. Find a fun fact you can go and share with your kitties.
Mhm.
Okay? We love y'all. See you next time.
Deuces.